yesterday the markets did take a little bit of a pause. That big move from Monday did get sold into just that little bit, and I say just that little bit because it really shies away in front of the massive move that we had on Monday. But yes, the standout factor was not the fact that you had a little bit of a market fall yesterday. We were pegged back by about 1.5% for the benchmark indexes, and a little bit for even the broader end of the market, although at an index level it may seem like it was a mildly positive close, but they did also fall from the top of the day. The standout factor then, the fact that FIIs sold off. It's not a big sell-off figure, but even a tide turn from what they've been doing from the month of April, that is a little bit of a figure that you want to take notice of. That said, the DII buying, that really continues, and there was no aberration there. But yes, the FIIs, that red tick came in.
So we had a terrific Monday. It was a okay Tuesday. Are we in for a comeback Wednesday? Like the punchline?
Yeah.
No, I mean, that's what it is, right? I mean, we did not see the follow-up on Monday, but we did not see a massive selling also. So what are the factors at play on Wednesday? That's what we need to understand. Second question you would ask yourself is that what is Mr. Trump doing? Well, he's stitched up a deal with China and he's opened up another frontier with Saudi Arabia. So that's keeping everyone, excited that, okay, more and more trade deals are coming through. So that's the second question which everybody would like to know. Third is that what do you do? I mean, hypothetically, if you've been in the market, is it time to take some chips off the table? Or you should actually wait for the decline, but you should be in the market. I would say that's the third part. So these are the factors at play, Aisha. Nifty yesterday closed below 24,600. FI were net sellers in the cash market, and we are in the fag end of earnings. Anything else?
Well, that's pretty much it. I mean, you largely keep a close eye on what's happening at a global level as well. The fact that both the S&P as well as the Nasdaq did have a solid handover overnight. In fact, the S&P was higher by about almost 1%, and it was a 1.6% move coming in on the Nasdaq overnight. In fact, the S&P has now reversed all of its year-to-date losses. I mean, so much for so much news development and so much uncertainty regarding the mother market, that's the US. The 10-year yield lost 1 basis point. It's currently around that 4.47% mark. The dollar index, though, that also has eased off from that 101 print. It was a downtick of about 0.7% that we saw overnight. But US core CPI, that was softer than expected. President Trump is saying that he will lift all sanctions on Syria, and also saying that Saudis are now going to be investing $1 trillion, touting deals in the US as well. But yes, for us, the big takeaway, I don't think is any of it, but the fact that Brent oil, that's back at 66.
Yeah. So Aisha, if you have to connect the global dots here, US markets have retraced all the losses they've had in the year. I mean, not all the markets, but S&P has retraced, which is what it matters. So what are equity markets telling you? That okay, we saw the US markets are overbought, the Trump comeback trade crashed, tariff added to uncertainty, tariffs have been renegotiated, and for Americans or for American companies, US President Donald Trump is now opening more and more frontiers. So there is a solidity in the market which, frankly, if you ask me, is at play. That's a global backdrop for you. And how will that help us? Let's look at India. What I don't like about yesterday's price action is that why did FIs sell? When news is so strong, when earnings are okay, when the macros are on our side, after this huge Monday, why exactly did FIs sell? Is this because they could go back to China, or is this a one-day wonder? That is something which we really need to examine. And I would say that there is no easy answer to say that what will FIs do. All I know is that this kind of an odd day, I think, will not become a trend. So I will not read too much into yesterday's FI activity. Then Aisha, you got to ask yourself is that, okay, what do you do in this market? And I think the broader market has scope to outperform in the near term for next 2 or 3 days. So yesterday the small and the mid cap indexes actually were up. Why? Because the Johnny come lately crowd is not feeling confident to buy.
Yeah.
Yeah,
like we were saying, it's the peak of good news. Yeah. What more could you have asked for?
Yeah. So the smart guys, which are the institutional investors, they will analyze the market in the light of momentum, liquidity and earnings and valuation. That's where I think the cushion is less. But when markets are going with this kind of in speed, there is a lot of mid cap action which typically picks up. It may not last for long, but I think it will exist. So yesterday we saw two parallel markets, small up, large down. I think that may just extend itself for next 2-3 days. But to make a case that we are in for a 1,000-point dash looks unlikely. To make a case that you should go all guns blazing, that also looks unlikely. So the best strategy in this market is that you don't participate now or take some trading gains off the table. If you've been lucky enough and you've been watching ET now and watching our expert advice and our sense, if you bought, let's say, in April mid or first week of May, I think might as well lock some gains. It will not hurt you if you lock gains at these levels.
Yeah, absolutely. And talking about the FIIs, we've always maintained that that's a very relative move.
Yeah.
That money did pull out from China because of the uncertainty with regards to tariff from the US. And I think there's a question mark. Does that money move now back to China?
Logically, it should, Aisha. I'll tell you why. Because the problems for China have got sorted out. That market has not participated at all and China is still cheap. So you can't make a case that it's going to be India versus China. It may be India and China. But in the near term, in that India and China will come first, India will come second. Of late, it has been India and only India. So India and China, that trade, I think from a global standpoint is back. And it really could be India and China, but China starts with a capital C, India becomes a small I right now, from a real near-term allocation perspective. That's the limited point I'm trying to say.
If you like this video, then like, share and subscribe to ET Now.